We're back. We are so back, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I love Christmas. I love Halloween. My birthday is fine. But the start of the NFL season truly is the most wonderful time of the year. And that means the annual unbiased NFL predictions are back as well. So let's go. But first, report card time. And listen, I'll be honest, last year wasn't my best year. I got 4 of the 7 NFC playoff teams correct, and only 3 of the 7 in the AFC. I did, however, correctly pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, which I understand is not exactly going out on a limb, but it is something. But none of that matters now. It's 2024. We're going to nail the picks this year, so let's go. And I did actually go through every single game and pick through this website here. And we always see new playoff teams each year, so as a general rule of thumb, I try to pick 3 new playoff teams from each conference. Let's get started with the AFC East. Now, I've got this as a tight race between the Jets and the Bills, both finishing at 12-4. Ultimately, though, the Bills do win the tiebreaker and win the division. A lot of people are down on this team after losing Stephon Diggs, and they've got Matt Milano out with an injury, but I think this team is going to be just fine. They added some firepower in Keon Coleman and Ray Davis in the NFL draft. I think those guys are going to pick up in the second half of the year. They've still got Josh Allen, who I think is the second best quarterback in the NFL. I think the Bills are going to have a good year. The Jets finish second and finish as a wild card, and I know a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes right now, but listen, Aaron Rodgers is still one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He's coming off the Achilles injury, but just assume that he's going to be a league average quarterback, which I think he's going to be better than that. The Jets are going to be really good. They've got an awesome defense, and I think both Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are going to establish themselves as maybe top 3 at their respective positions, so I like the Jets a lot this year. I've got the Dolphins at a disappointing 8-9, and I don't feel amazing about this pick. I mean, they could prove me to be really wrong here. Obviously, the Dolphins have a ton of offensive firepower with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Devon Achane going into his second year. This is more so that I just think those teams above them are going to be better. And I do think Tua is a good quarterback, but there is a ceiling on how far you can go with him, and you've always got that injury concern in the back of your mind with him, and honestly, a lot of their key players. So maybe this is the year that comes to bite them. Like I said, don't feel great about this one, but Dolphins 8-9. And the Patriots are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're going to finish at 2-15, and I do feel confident about this one. I am a believer in Drake May in the long term. I think he's going to be really good, but they're going to give him a while before he's even able to start. That offensive line is atrocious, and I don't see a whole lot of talent elsewhere on the roster. And so this makes the Patriots our very first booty cheeks alert of the day. All right, now we're on to the AFC North. Another close race, but I have the Ravens winning it at 13-4. Listen, Lamar Jackson teams just don't lose a whole lot in the regular season when he's healthy. This team added Derrick Henry, and I think the defense is still going to be really good even after losing Mike McDonald in the offseason. They've got a great head coach, and they've also got the best kicker in the league. Big bounce back year for the Bengals. I've got them finishing at 12-5. I think Joe Burrow is going to stay healthy and reestablish himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They've got some great offensive weapons in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, Zach Moss, and I think the defense will do just enough. I've got the Steelers finishing 6-11. This is the first sub-500 season for Mike Tomlin. Things finally start to kind of go south here in Pittsburgh. And it comes down to I just don't really believe in Russell Wilson. And even if you bench him, I don't really believe in Justin Fields either. Even though I do think George Pickens is a great receiver and I still believe in the defense, things just don't click for the Steelers this year. The Browns are last at 5-12. This is going to be the year we all acknowledge that the Deshaun Watson trade is one of the worst we've ever seen in NFL history. Not to mention giving him all of that guaranteed money. I think he's going to be a major letdown. Amari Cooper's getting older. Nick Chubb has paper mache for knees. Myles Garrett is amazing, but overall I think the Browns are going to be at the bottom of this division. Next up is the AFC South. Everyone is on the Texans hype train, and listen, I get it. I am too. I've got that team at 12-5. CJ Stroud is one of the most exciting ascending quarterbacks in the league. They've got Nico Collins. They've got Tank Dell. They added Stephon Diggs, which I think could be kind of weird. But overall, I think they make it work. And DeMeco Ryans seems like he's going to be a great coach. I've got them finishing first, although I was tempted to switch them with the next team. and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Another bounce-back team, I've got them at 11-6. I still think Trevor Lawrence is a really good quarterback. I mean, that might just be cope because I have him in fantasy football. But if you look at last year, he was playing through a ton of injuries. They replaced Calvin Ridley with Brian Thomas in the offseason. I think that's going to be a huge upgrade. Ultimately, I am in on the Jags. The Colts just missed out on the playoffs at 10-7, and this is a hard team for me to predict. I love some of the talent. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell. The biggest question mark, obviously, is Anthony Richardson, a guy who's got all the physical talent in the world, but let's see if he can stay healthy and progress as a passer. I think he does, but the Colts come up just short. The Titans are a weird team. I've got them at 3-14. I'm not really that into Will Levis, and they added some pieces in the offseason, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, and some other guys on defense. Some names that sound good on paper, but I ultimately just don't think it comes together. I could see them being closer to like a 500 team if things go right, but I just like the other teams in this division better than the Titans. And rounding out the AFC is the AFC West. I think the Chiefs are going to be amazing this year. I just do. They're going for the first three-peat in NFL history. I think they're going to be focused. I think they're going to take that really seriously. I've got them at 14-3. The funny thing is they weren't even that good of a team in the regular season last year, and they still won the Super Bowl. If anything, maybe Taylor Swift derails their season, but otherwise, I think the Chiefs are going to be even better on offense this year, adding Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown, and they've got the best player in the world, Patrick Mahomes. I've got the Chargers at 11-6, and somehow in my predictions, they just miss out on the playoffs in a very crowded field. This is another one that I don't feel amazing about. I actually wanted to sneak them into the playoffs. I think Jim Harbaugh is an amazing head coach. I think Justin Herbert is a really, really freaking good starting quarterback. And yeah, their receiver room kind of sucks, but you can see guys like Josh Palmer and Ladd McConkey stepping up. And I think the run game is going to be really strong too with Greg Roman, but again, they just missed the playoffs. I've got the Broncos and the Raiders both tying at 3-14. Sitting at the bottom of the division, we get another booty cheeks alert for them both. For the Broncos, I do think Bo Nix actually will show some promise, but there's going to be some rookie growing pains. And they could be decent on defense with Pat Surtain, who's a great corner, but I don't think enough to win a whole lot of games. I think the Raiders just suck. I mean, this is maybe the worst quarterback situation in the NFL, whether they're playing Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. I think Devontae Adams is going to be asking out of there, and maybe we see him traded by midseason to somewhere like the Jets. And with that, we're on to the NFC, starting with the NFC East. Now, the Eagles had an epic collapse last year, but I think they're just a little too talented for things not to turn around. I've got them winning the division at 11-6. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they add Saquon Barkley in the offseason. They changed both coordinators in the offseason. Jalen Carter is going to be a beast on defense. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be a lot healthier, and it's all going to add up to a better year for Philly. I've actually got the Commanders coming in at 9-8, a bit of a surprise team here. I'm not sure how great Jaden Daniels is going to be long-term because I worry a little bit about him getting hurt. But I think in the short term, his rookie year, he's going to be electric, much like RG3's rookie season. But Washington just misses out on the playoffs. The Cowboys kind of collapsed this year. I've got them at 8-9. As of right now, it's a lame duck season for both Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. Not a good formula. CeeDee Lamb is maybe the best receiver in football, but there's not much behind him. Running back is also a huge question mark. They bring back Zeke, who's older than Joe Biden at this point, and Micah Parsons is great, but other than him, I'm just not feeling the vibes with the Cowboys this year. And the Giants are in the basement of the division and the NFL at 4-13. Another booty cheeks alert here. I think Malik Nabers is going to be incredible, but who's throwing him the football? Not really a Daniel Jones guy. But overall, I think the Giants are going to be coming out of this season looking to draft their next franchise quarterback, with apologies to my dad and my brother. Next division is the NFC North, possibly one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. And y'all know what the deal is. The Green Bay Packers are going to be incredible this season. I'm thinking 12-5. Right near the top of the conference. This team is incredibly deep at wide receiver. Josh Jacobs is in the best situation in his entire career. The line is solid. They've got a lot of talent on defense and a new D coordinator coming in. And Jordan Love. Jordan Love is going to be really, really good this year. I'll leave it at that for now. Plus, we've got Matt LaFleur, who's also one of the best coaches in football. Okay, next, the Lions. I admit I undersold them last year. I think they're going to be really good this year again, 11-6. This is a talented team, and they did add a lot of defensive talent in the draft, specifically to the secondary. Plus, you got Gibbs, St. Brown, and Laporta on offense. I still am not the biggest Jared Goff guy, but I think he's proven at least to be a good quarterback. If there is one thing that's going to hold them back, I think that's Dan Campbell making stupid decisions. Some people have the Bears making the playoffs in year one of Caleb Williams, and I'm just not feeling that. I think they come close at 9-8. As a Bears hater, I'm not happy about the fact that they drafted Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. I think those guys are going to be really, really good eventually. The defense is really good too, but I think they come up a little short from making the playoffs just due to rookie mistakes and the two teams in front of them being a little better. Now, the Vikings seem like they're already off to a really rough start with some of these injuries. I've got them at 2-15, which admittedly is probably a little too low. But regardless, they're another booty cheeks alert. Justin Jefferson is great, but Sam Darnold stinks. And they lost a lot of guys on defense. Not feeling this team. That brings us to the NFC South, and I think this is one of the worst divisions in football, if not the worst. I've got the Falcons winning it at 10-7. Kirk Cousins is way better than what they had last year in Desmond Ridder, and I think even if Michael Penix Jr. has to play, I'm okay with that. I think he's going to be a good player. The offensive talent is crazy with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Hopefully he breaks out this year finally. And they filled some holes on defense with some free agent signings. I think they win this crappy division. The Bucs are going to regress this year. I have them at 8-9. Now, I was super wrong on them last year. They went out and won a playoff game, but I do think this is the year things don't work out as well. They lose Dave Canales, and I think Baker is a pretty good quarterback, but nowhere near that elite level. There's just not that much here that gets me all that excited. I think the Panthers are a little better at 7-10. They get Dave Canales, who I think is going to make Bryce Young look a lot better than the disaster he was last year. They just don't have enough for me to think they're going to do much better. I do think they have some sleeper potential, and I really like rookie running back Jonathan Brooks whenever he can get healthy. The Saints are going to stink at 4-13. Major booty cheeks alert here. Derek Carr is probably my least favorite quarterback in the NFL, and I won't be surprised at all to see them go to Spencer Rattler at some point this season. They're still doing the Taysom Hill thing. Alvin Kamara is getting older, and I like Chris Olave, but there's not much behind him. And finally, the NFC West, another difficult division to predict. I went back and forth on this one a lot. Maybe one of my biggest surprise teams is Seattle, who wins the division at 11-6. Now, I'm not super confident about this one, but I did want to pick someone other than San Francisco. They get Mike McDonald from the Ravens, who I think is an amazing defensive coach. Watch out for Devon Witherspoon to take a step this year into becoming one of the elite cornerbacks in the NFL. They've got Metcalf, JSN, Lockett, and Kenneth Walker on offense, and I think Geno Smith does just enough. The 49ers also go 11-6, but lose out on the tiebreaker. The Super Bowl hangover is a real thing, although they have too much talent on the roster for me to think they're not going to make the playoffs. You got Bosa and Warner on defense, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo on offense. Brock Purdy is a good system quarterback. Good offensive line, good coach. I think they have kind of a weird season, but still make the playoffs. Another surprise team, the Cardinals, go 10-7 and make the playoffs. I think the coach Jonathan Gannon surprised a lot of people last year, and I do still think Kyler Murray is a good quarterback when he stays healthy. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a generational receiver prospect, and I think Trey McBride is going to establish himself as one of the elite tight ends in the league. I'm not as confident in the defense, but I have them just sneaking in. The Rams come up at 8-9, and honestly, I could see this team making the playoffs. Again, this is a really hard division to predict. I do love the offensive talent with Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Kyron Williams, but I do think the defense is going to feel the loss of Aaron Donald, even though I do like the rookie Jared Verse, but the Rams just narrowly missed the playoffs. So to recap, my playoff teams in the AFC, Kansas City is the 1 seed and gets the bye, Ravens are the 2 seed, Texans are the 3 seed, Bills at 4, and my wildcard teams in order are Jets, Bengals, Jaguars. In the NFC, the Packers are the 1 seed and get the bye, Eagles 2 seed, Seahawks 3 seed, Falcons at 4, and the wild cards in order are 49ers, Lions, Cardinals. Before we pick the playoffs, here are some award predictions. Most valuable player, I'm going with my guy Jordan Love. You guys can laugh all you want, you will see in time. Offensive player of the year, let's go with Breece Hall. Defensive player of the year, I'll say Devon Witherspoon. Coach of the year, one of these years they're going to give it to Matt LaFleur. I think it's this year. Defensive rookie of the year, I'll say Jared Verse. Offensive rookie of the year, I'll say Jayden Daniels. And comeback player of the the year, again, Aaron Rodgers coming off that Achilles injury, I think is going to have a really, really good year. And now let's get to those playoff picks in the AFC wildcard round. I have the Jets beating the Bills. The Bengals beat the Texans, and the Ravens beat the Jaguars. In the divisional round, Chiefs beat the Bengals, and the Jets beat the Ravens. Your AFC Championship game, the Chiefs' three-peat efforts fall just short. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are back in the Super Bowl. NFC wildcard round, Falcons upset the 49ers. The Lions take down the Seahawks. And the Eagles take care of the Cardinals. NFC divisional, the Packers pack up the Lions. And the Eagles end the Falcons season. Then in the NFC Championship game, it's a rematch of Week 1. The Packers win a close one against the Eagles. Setting up the most dramatic Super Bowl we could possibly get. This thing is going to break ratings records. The Jets and Aaron Rodgers take on his old team in the Packers and MVP Jordan Love. And you already know how this one ends, with Jordan Love hoisting his first Lombardi trophy, taking down his former mentor in a game that comes down to the wire. So that's it, folks. That's how I think this season is going to play out. Let me know what you think and how stupid I am. I cannot wait. Happy NFL.